Hello, everybody. This is Miss Puckett here, and I just wanted to go over the 40 book challenge genre edition PowerPoint for you all, for those of you who may have missed the N Class Live session, or for those of you who want to come back and review what the 40 book challenge is and what the different genres are that we are going to be reading this year. So you will have it when you can accurately identify the genre of a book. So basically, in this PowerPoint, we're going to talk about the 40 book challenge that we're going to complete this year as fourth graders, and then we're also going to go over the different genres and what each of them are. So what is the 40 book challenge? So this is a grade-wide challenge to read 40 books across different genres. One may ask, what is a genre? So a genre refers to the type or kind of book you are reading. We use genres as a system to classify books by their common characteristics. So how does the 40 book challenge work? So in this chart over here, I think you can see my cursor. This is where you will be writing down all the books that you read. So under the date, you'll write the date that you finished the book, title and lexile over here, genre right here, and then your rating right here. 0 stars if you very much disliked the book. 1 star if you thought it was okay, but you wouldn't really recommend it for someone else to read. 2 stars if it was pretty good. And 3 stars if it was absolutely amazing, best book you've ever read. So you're going to keep track of what books you read here. Over here on this side, this is where you are going to do your 40 book challenge book graph. So as you can see down here, the different genres. And once you read a book of that genre, you're going to fill in the square. So for example, right here, this says realistic fiction. If I read a realistic fiction book first, I will fill in this part of the graph first. Over here in this purple square, it says your choice. So these are books that you can choose the genre. So as we're going through the genres, maybe think about what would be your favorite genre to read, and those will probably be the books that you use for your choice category. So all books can be sorted into 2 types of categories. These categories are fiction and nonfiction. So fiction is writing that is made up and usually includes characters who overcome challenges. Nonfiction is writing that gives information about actual people, true stories, and real things. So for example, an example of nonfiction might be your textbook. And an example of fiction might be something like Cinderella, a story that's made up. Characteristics of genres worksheet. So this is the worksheet. You should have gotten it at your textbook pickup. So if you have this, go ahead and get it out and take notes as we go along. I'm not going to pause at each slide during this presentation, but you can pause the video and take your notes and then press play. And then you can continue to listen to me talk about them and listen to the examples. But we're going to go through each genre, and under each one you can write the sentence that's on the slide. This is very important, and you should keep this piece of paper with you throughout the year so that you're able to identify what genre each book is that you're reading. So then you can fill out your 40 book challenge graph, and you can fill out all these worksheets on this slide. So we're going to start with realistic fiction. This is a made-up story that could have actually happened with believable characters and setting. So it's a believable story that could have actually happened in real life, but it's actually not true. Some examples of realistic fiction include Junie B. Jones, Beverly Cleary, Andrew Clements, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, all these good books right here. My personal favorite when I was y'all's age was Junie B. Jones. Fantasy books are also made up stories, but they include magical powers and talking animals. So the difference between realistic fiction and fantasy fiction is the magical powers and the talking animals. You'll only see that in fantasies. One of my favorite fantasy books is Harry Potter. I don't know if any of you guys have read Harry Potter, but it seems that in our live sessions that was a fan favorite. So here's some examples. Like I said, Harry Potter, Chronicles of Narnia, that's a good one. A Wrinkle in Time, Magic Tree House, and Roald Dahl books. Roald Dahl. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, great one, great movie. Next, we have informational. So this is text that includes facts about information about real life topics. So for example, your textbooks are all informational. Now, you shouldn't use your textbooks for your 40-book challenge, but that's just an example of what an informational book would be. Here's some informational book recommendations. Every informational book are going to tell you the what was or the what is. National Geographic is a great place to find these. So when you think informational, just think true facts. True, true, true. So now we're going to dive deep into autobiography and biography, and we're going to talk about the difference between these two. So autobiography is a text that someone writes to give factual information about their own life. So if I wrote a book about myself, then that would be an autobiography. Whereas a biography is a text that someone writes to give factual information about someone else's life. So if I wrote a book about Miss Mims's life, then that would be a biography. Here's some autobiography and biography book recommendations. So these are the who, was, or is books. So these books are about Albert Einstein, Rosa Parks, Abraham Lincoln, Dr. Seuss, George Washington. And now to my favorite, mystery books. So this is when the characters are trying to solve a puzzle that often has clues. So I know mystery books are very popular amongst students your age, and some book recommendations are Nancy Drew, The Hardy Boys, Boxcar Children, The Series of Unfortunate Events, Lemons, and Dogman. Next, we have historical fiction. I also really enjoy reading historical fiction books because, as I've told you guys before, I'm a history nerd. I love all that kind of stuff, and so this is a made-up story set in the past to portray another time in history. So it's basically a fiction story, but it's set in the past. It's set in a real time in history. Some book recommendations. I Survived, great one. The True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle, Esperanza Rising, Island of the Blue Dolphins, Bud Not Buddy, one of my all-time favorites, highly recommend it. And last but not least, we have poetry, and these are verses that have rhyme or rhythm that are often written to evoke feelings and emotions. My favorite thing about poetry is that there are so many different topics and it's so diverse. There's poetry about everything, so I feel that everyone can find a poem that they enjoy. Some poetry recommendations include Hate That Cat, Love That Dog, Where the Sidewalk Ends, and Runny Babbitt. And one of my favorites out of all of these would be Love That Dog. And that is the end of this presentation for the 40-book challenge. Happy reading, and make sure, if you have not already, completed the genre exit ticket under your language arts Google Classroom under classwork. Please make sure to complete that because it will be taken for our grade. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.